A blessed day to everyone, and welcome to our third chapter. So I'm going to discuss to you sustainability and human values. So this is still connected to the previous two chapters that I have discussed to you. And before we begin, let us try to look at first this famous quotation of John F. Kennedy, the former president of United States. According to him, or according to the statement, one person can make a difference and everyone should try. And the question is, will you? Will you also try this kind of things? So you see, in this planet Earth, or in this world that we are living, definitely we can do something else, or even in our simple acts, we can actually do something, or we can actually bring change to our world. Okay, so that is still connected to our discussion today, because we're going to talk about sustainability, and then the connection to human values. Right, so last time I have introduced you already some of the details regarding sustainability. So what are the things that we're going to discuss on this chapter number 3? First, sustainable development and sustainable consumption. What else? Ethics and environmental worldviews, as well as the environmental justice. So I have discussed to you already what is, or we define what is sustainable last time. So that is all about developing something without destroying the natural system, and we are more pertaining to what we call the environment. Okay, so in this discussion, let us try to look at some of the factors that is in line to sustainability. Okay, so we have their sustainable development, sustainable consumption, ethics, environmental worldviews, and environmental justice. Alright, so let's begin with the definition of terms as our basis and foundation in this chapter. So development is defined to be the improving by expanding, enlarging, or refining something. So that is what we call development, since we're going to discuss sustainable development later on. Okay, what else? Aside from development, we need to define also what is consumption. So consumption is again defined to be utilization of something, like for example, you have their food, goods, services, etc. Okay? And definitely in this world, or as we live in this world, we are definitely consuming a lot of things, either that is a renewable resources or maybe non-renewable resources. Okay, so later on, let us try to look at more details regarding consumption. And ethics, when we talk about ethics, that is simply the ideas of right or wrong, or study of moral values and rules, or let's say knowing what is right or wrong. Okay, so what are the things that we should do, what are the things that we should not do within our home, or in this planet Earth, or within the environment. Okay, so we have also what we call environmental ethics that will be discussed later on. And then justice. When we talk about justice, that is the quality of being just and then fair. Here, the term itself being fair, the fairness for everything that we do, not only to other individuals or other people, but in line to environment. Again, there is what we call environmental justice. So later on, again, we're going to discuss about that thing. Let's start with sustainable development. So what is a sustainable development? When we talk about this development, it is actually a development that meets the needs of the present without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their own needs. Take note on the highlighted words, you have their needs of the present. So we are definitely improving, we are refining what is in the present without destroying or without compromising this one, so that for the coming generation or for the future generation, they are going also to use these kinds of present needs, or they going to use also these present needs. Okay, so meaning we are refining, we are developing something in this present, not only because for our sake, but also for the sake of the future generation. Okay, so like for example, we are preserving, we are conserving these different kinds of natural resources or renewable resources, so that for the coming years, or for the coming generation, they're going also to use this kind of of resources, or we're going to pass on whatever is being developed or whatever is being refined during this present. That's what we call sustainable development. So again, when we talk about sustainable, developing something without destroying the natural system. Okay, so sustainable development, we're going to look after the present things around us that will be used also for the next generation. And what else? When we talk about sustainable development, it is actually more than just caring about environment or generating money through economic growth. Take note, we are looking all the things that is what is in present. Now, we are not only talking about environment itself, we are not only talking about the generating money through economic growth. So we are preparing actually, or we are developing the world itself to be a good world, or let's say a preserved world for the generation. Okay, so not only environment, not only money, but actually everything, everything that around us, or let's say the planet Earth itself, or let's say our home, because this will be home also for the coming generations. So that is the point of sustainable development. When you talk about sustainable development, there are three pillars that we need to take note. So we have their society, economy, environment. So meaning there's an impact of those different pillars. So for us to achieve whatever the goal or whatever the objective of sustainable development, let's try to consider all those three different pillars. So think of a system, my dear classmate. It means that humans, trees, environment, society, wealth is capable of flourishing without hindering the capacity of the other, whether in the present or in the future. Take note, we are talking about sustainable development. So again, we have there the present or the future. At the same time, we are thinking of it as a system. So think of it as a whole, and system as a whole. So everything is actually connected. Sustainable development, everything is connected across generations and across countries, communities, society, people, humans, animals, plants, insects, etc. So everything is connected. So meaning we have actually an impact to those different things. Like for example, humans have an impact on environment. At the same time, environment has an impact to humans. Advanced technologies have an impact within our environment. At the same time, technologies also have an impact to humans. So definitely, we are talking about everything now when you talk about the sustainable development. But then, when you try to look at what is happening nowadays, or let's say during this present time, and this is the sad reality. So what is happening today? First, pollution and degradation of our environment or of the environment. And that is actually the reality. Because of overpopulation and because of the too much progress already of the industries, we observe already what is the effect of these different factories, industries, and even the waste and pollution. We can see already that is happening within our world. What else? People in highly developed countries are generating 75% or more of amount of waste and then pollution. That was introduced to you also last time. I have discussed that one during the time that I present to you the three different types of countries. We have highly developed, we have moderate developed, as well as the less developed country. So that is the reality. So that is actually happening. In fact, one of the examples, the garbage, or let's say the trash, other countries is being dumped here in the Philippines. So just last year, they found out a cargo, and a very big cargo that is full of trash garbages that is coming from Canada. So imagine that was again transported here in the Philippines. So it means that again, the highly developed countries are actually generating too much of pollution, and that is the sad reality. So don't worry, what our government did with that with that trash and garbages, they actually send it back to the country that is responsible, which is again in Canada. That is not only the case that was happened here in our country. Even for the past years, there are some cargoes that is being transported here in our country that is definitely a cargo of full of garbages and then trash. Only that one, it will reflect already that highly developed countries are generating too much percentage of waste. And not only waste but also pollution. What else? What is happening today when you talk about lifestyle? Lifestyle is already changing. Take note, we are already facing what we call the pandemic. At the same time, because of modern time, because of advancement of science and technology, our lifestyle is already changed. So the ways of living. What else? Because of the use of smartphones or different gadgets, our lifestyles already changed. If we are eating in on time before, but because of the use of gadget, no, especially young people, they are not already eating on time, no, because of too much use or too much playing with their games in a particular smartphone, or let's say in a gadget, no? So those things are actually an example when we talk about this lifestyle. Those are the key points, no, that we need to take note what is really happening during this time, and that is the sad reality. And that is why we have what we call the idea of sustainable development. Okay? And that is why we are introducing to you what is sustainable development. So sustainable development, what now? No, since we have this kind of sad reality that is happening in our world, what are now? No, what are the things that we can do? So first, let's try to look at first or understand the three different pillars of sustainable development, since this is the basis or this is the foundation for us to achieve what is sustainable development. Okay, so let's start with the economic pillar of sustainable development. So for us to come up with sustainable development, there should be a fair trade. There should be a fair trade. That is actually a very practical way for us to have a sustainable development. So it means that if there will be a fair trade and economic system, definitely everybody will have a good marketing businesses. What else? They have a good income, a fair income, etc. Because they have a fair trade. Okay, so that is one. Another one, we need to eradicate what we call the debt, no, or yung in Filipino term, that is utang. So I think that is one of the good point or reminder for everybody when we talk about that debt or utang. And so take note, no, the Philippines itself, every Filipinos are actually having a debt, no. So that is the problem, because our government itself, or our country, or let's say the government, have a lot of credit in the debt, and I think it also affects now the economic system. At the same time, the improvement of the quality of life of the people, no. So again, that is one way for us to achieve what we call sustainable development. Okay, what else? Putting in place mechanism. When we talk about this mechanism, let's say talk about fair trade, but this time it's more than fair trade. No? So we are coming up with the plans to sustain the fairness to every to every financial related topics or concepts. No, let's say for example, every employers have this kind of fair income. What else? Every Filipinos have this kind of fair, let's say financial assistance. So that is what we call the place and mechanism, no? So meaning we have this kind of ways to put things in a fair way. So there is an equal treatment, there is an equal salary, there's an equal services, etc. So that is what we call the putting in place mechanism. In line with the economic system, if we have this kind of way, then we can achieve what we call sustainable development. What else? Corporations, industries, and governments do not use up resources and put a strain on the environment. I think this is the very good challenge, to every industries or to every factories, or let's say companies, or government itself, who are using too much of our resources. There's a lot actually of companies, and even the government, are actually benefiting on this particular way, no? So we are using too much of our resources, but yes, we are generating a high income, but take note, no, we are putting also a strain, or putting a problem, or environmental problems, or environmental negative environmental impact. One way for us to have a sustainable development, we need, to stop this kind of things that is happening within our country. That is, I think, one of the good reason that is happened for the past years. I think this is all about, let's say, when talk about mining, for the mining companies that was being targeted last for the previous years. Isn't it that this is one of the project of our government before, that they close most of the private minings. We know that when we talk about mining, there is a big impact within our environment. So yes, they follow protocol. We have what we call the green mining or an eco-friendly mining, but at the same time, take note, there is always a negative impact of the mining. Okay, so we cannot avoid that one. So that is only an example. So again, we have their fair trade, the debt eradication, putting in place mechanism, using up of resources and putting a strain in the environment, and also we need mechanisms to measure sustainable development. So what is our basis now, in line with economic system? How can we say that there is a sustainable development in line to economic system? According to the details, or according to some of the critics, or let's say, yes, some of the critics and some also of the scholars, they have said that why not use happiness instead as our mechanism or as our basis on measuring our sustainable development, or the SD. One of the bases that is being used by the other countries, and even here in our country, we are using GDP. It's not really practical to use GDP as a basis or mechanism to measure what is sustainable, to measure the sustainable development of a country. Why? Because not everybody is having an income, or let's say not everybody have the same income. And if they're going to suggest, they are actually saying about happiness. So it means that if someone is happy, we can say that there is a good economic system. Because when we talk about happiness, we can say that even though we don't have money, sometimes we're also happy, or everybody is actually happy even without the term when we talk about financial or when we talk about money. One of their suggested bases, hoping. But then again, take note that is only a suggestion, and there's a lot of considerations on how to measure actually our sustainable development. So how can we say that our country is in a good sustainable development? So what will be our mechanisms? What will be our basis? At present, we are using GDP as one as our mechanism to measure the sustainable development. So hoping that in the future, or maybe for the coming years, we will have a very good basis or mechanism to measure our sustainable development. So that is all about economic pillar of the sustainable development. Aside from the economic pillar, we need to understand also what is the society pillar. Take note, we have the economic pillar, and definitely if we have a problem in the economic pillar or in the economic system, probably it also affects our society. And our society is also working or moving what is in that economic concept or in that economic system. Okay, so society, a healthy society, meaning there will be a healthy world. At the same time, if there will be a healthy people, there will be a healthy society. And if we have a healthy society, it means that we can also achieve what we call sustainable development. What else? Education. Take note, everybody should be educated. That is why we do have what we call the free education, or the free education system. Not only here in our country, but also in the other countries. So if we have a good education, and so everybody will be educated, definitely we can also achieve through this way what we call the sustainable development. So that is a very good thing actually. Because if you are educated, you know what you're going to do. We are being reminded, we are being informed, we learn things, what is happening around us. So if the society is being educated, we will reach or achieve what we call sustainable development. Okay, what else? Equality. So equality, equity. Okay, so those terms, So it should be that every people should have this kind of concept, or let's say perspective. Fairness. The treatment is the same. What else? We do have very good policies that will have or will achieve what we call in terms and condition, at the same time equality among people. So if there will be equality within our society, we can definitely achieve what we call sustainable development. And if there will be equality, definitely we have also peace. So there will be a peace, there will be a sustainable development as well. So what else? Aside from peace, aside from equality, we have also food security. I think this is also one of the practical things, or key words or key terms when you talk about society pillar. Okay, so food security, we know that around the world we have already a problem, which is the poverty, at the same time world hunger. So food security, I think one of the good solution to achieve also what we call sustainable development. Okay, so if everybody within the society is having enough food, definitely there will be no problem on food. What else? There should be no there will be no other kinds of problems that will arise, like for example maybe crimes, because people cannot eat something else, they will commit crime just to get something to to feed their families, etc. Okay, so food security is, I think, very important term that we need to take note when we talk about society, or the society pillar of sustainable development. So if there will be food security, the society will be healthy. Okay? At the same time, if there will be a healthy society, then there will be a sustainable development. Okay. And aside from society, let's try to look at also the other pillar, which is the environmental pillar, or the environment pillar. So we know that I have said, no, not only society is being affected, but as well as our environment. And when I talk about environment, let's try to look at, or let's address, no, let's try to understand and to address, at the same time respond to what is climate change and global warming, because that is what is happening within our environment during this time and even before. So if we know how to respond, if we know how to counter, no, this kind of problem, and or even adapt, know what is happening within our environment, because climate change and global warming is already happening within our planet Earth. So basically, if we understand those things, if we know how to respond, then we can achieve also a very good environment. At the same time, we'll have a healthy society, and we also have what we call a sustainable development. Okay, what else? When we talk about environment, deforestation, we should stop, no, the deforestation. What else? Other kinds of environmental problems. So if in that way, if we stop this kind of things that is happening within our environment, definitely we'll have a healthy environment. At the same time, we can also achieve sustainable development. So deforestation, what else? Environmental degradation, and other kinds of environmental problems, and loss of biodiversity as well. So if we respond, no, or we address this kind of problem within our environment, and we come up with different kinds of plans to protect also our environment, that is why we do have what we call this one. We have, for example, environmental protection laws, and etc. If we understand those things, then we can achieve also what we call sustainable development. Again, no, if there will be deforestation, if there will be a loss of biodiversity, people are being affected. Living things and other living things will be affected. And if living things, or let's say humans, will be affected with this kind of problem in our environment, there will be also a problem, or being affected, the economic system will also be affected. Okay, so if there be a loss of biodiversity, people will be homeless. What else? Organisms will be homeless. A lot of them will going to die. Then our economic system will also be affected. Okay, so in that case, if there's a problem for one pillar, it will affect also the other two pillars. We are looking at a system. So take note now, we have three pillars of sustainable development. We have their economic pillar, we have also society pillar, and we have the environment pillar. So all those three are connected. So if there will be a problem with one pillar, everything is actually being affected. So if we have a good terms, or we achieve all the good terms in line to those three pillars, we can achieve what is sustainable development. Just to sum up, based on the three pillars, what needs to be sustained and what needs to be developed. We need to sustain what is the people in the culture. What else? We need to sustain also our natural resources, so renewable and non-renewable resources. What else? Our biodiversity, and we need to sustain the diverse life within our planet or within our home. Okay? What else? Environment and the ecosystem. So if we sustain our environment, if we have a healthy environment, and we have also a healthy ecosystem, definitely we can achieve what is sustainable development. Okay? And then, what needs to be developed? So aside from being sustained, let's take a look now what are the things that we need to develop. So we need to develop the quality of life. So as we improve the quality of life, we also achieve what we call sustainable development. At the same time, we don't put a problem on the other things, or in the other concept. Like for example, in the environment, yes, we are improving the quality of life without destroying the natural system, or without destroying a lot of things around us. Okay, so improving the quality of life. What else? Developing the justice, or improving the justice and social equality. I think that is one good reminder for everybody, because for us to avoid chaos, what else? Avoid crimes, avoid conflicts, we need to develop or improve the idea or the concept of justice and social equality. Okay, what else? Institutions should be developed as well. So we are not pertaining about the facilities, or we're not talking about the buildings of institutions, but the rules and regulation, the policies, the rules and regulation. So what will be the importance of this institution? So we need to develop educational institutions, health institutions, and other kinds of institutions that will be developed or be improved, so that people will be, not only people and other living things will be help also, or will be benefiting in this kind of institutions. And culture of sustainability. So as we know, no, culture is one of the drivers to sustain our world. At the same time, if we improve, no, this culture, because as we all know, as time goes by, because of the change, yung term na change that is happening within our world or within our around us, definitely we need also to have what we call the culture of sustainability. Okay, so we need to adapt what is the change that is happening. What else? If there are some things that we can change or we can improve or we can learn or relearn about culture, then that is one way, to sustain also our culture. And that is one way also to achieve sustainable development. Aside from culture of sustainability, fair income. So we need to develop or improve the fair income. And especially during this time, my dear classmates, when we talk about crisis, no? But not even during this pandemic, but even before. As we all know, when we talk about income already, there is already a lot of debate. What else? A lot of controversial issues or problems towards this kind of concept, no? When we talk about income, so we should improve or develop the fair income. Let's say, for example, the salary of employee. What else? The health benefits or the benefits of an employee, etc. So we will have a fair income. Last term is the dialogue and then communication. And I think this is also one good reminder for everybody, no? We need to develop or improve the dialogue and communication. Why? Take note, no, we have already the internet or the internet. Due to a lot of informations that is being posted, no? Sometimes, or most of the time we don't know already which one is the truth and then which one is a fake news. So we need to improve and develop the dialogue and communication. Aside from sustainable development, we need to understand also that there is what we call sustainable consumption. Okay, so sustainable consumption is defined to be the use of goods or products and services that satisfy basic needs and improve the quality of life while minimizing the use of resources. So we are using our goods and products or the different services without using too much or minimizing the use of our resources, because that is what we call sustainable consumption. Kaya nga sustainable consumption, no? From the word itself, sustainability and then consumption. Okay? So what are the things that we need to take note about this sustainable consumption? So it requires eradication of poverty. So if we eradicate poverty, probably we'll come up with sustainable consumption. So again, we have the term poverty, no? So one of the common problems that we are facing around the globe, no? So not only here in our country, but also in the other countries. So it requires the eradication of poverty. What else? More than consuming green. When we talk about sustainable consumption, more than consuming green. So we are not only talking about our environment, but all the other things, no? So that is why we have what we call the goods and services. So, or let's say services that is not actually in consuming green, no, but more than actually consuming green. So we are not only talking about the resources, but also the services that is being provided, or what are the things that is we are benefiting from our environment or benefiting from different sources, no? Or different resources. Okay, so more than consuming green when we talk about sustainable consumption. What else? Meeting the basic needs. So if we meet the basic needs, especially when we talk about food, about shelter, about clothing, definitely we will also achieve what we call sustainable consumption. And about changing patterns or doing without, no, or let's say consuming without. And so doing without without destroying or using too much of our resources. Okay, so that is the meaning, no, when in line to sustainable consumption. So about changing patterns or doing without consuming too much of our resources. What else? Responsible consumption or consuming differently or efficiently. So that is now the one of the good, or what's called one of the important goal, no, of sustainable consumption. So responsible consumption, consuming differently or consuming efficiently. So let's say, for example, a practical example, if you try to look at the picture on the right side, no, let's say you're going to buy, no, your food stock or grocery stock for 1 week, then that should be used for 1 week, not used for 1 day only. Okay, so that is one example when we talk about consuming efficiently. no? So we are more sensitive already, or more responsible enough on how to consume these different kinds of resources. Okay, not only resources, but as well as the different products and the services. And I want you to observe this picture. When you talk about sustainable consumption, this is what is the real or the reality, no, what is happening during this time, no? So you have there example, this lady is thinking about or the goal of, or the plan, or let's say the vision, or let's say plans or objective of this girl is I'd like to end the poverty, stop violence and racism, what else, and get rid of pollution, and everyone should be equal. However, in reality, what is happening is that this is what is happening. I want to dress in the nicest clothes, drive a great car, talk in the latest mobile phone, and watch my brand new DVD. We have these very good plans, we have this very good vision or dreams, or let's say plans and objectives in our life. However, in reality, we're also the ones who are contradicting, no, these particular plans or objectives that we have in mind. We want to end poverty, but then we are too much greedy, no, on buying different kinds of things, or let's say different material things, no, or more on materialist, no, type of a person. What else? Get rid of pollution, but we want to ride on a car. So ironic, no, that this is actually our thinking. So no one is excuse actually. No, everybody have this kind of common attitude and common ways, no. So yes, we are looking into these things, we are planning, this is our objective, this is our dream. However, in reality, yan, sometimes we are also contradicting on those things. And on the other hand, aside from these ways of aside from this attitude, sometimes there are also people that is what we call voluntary simplicity, or in line to voluntary simplicity. I don't know if you are also have this kind of attitude, no. So individual happiness and quality of life are not necessarily linked to material goods. So we don't actually think about material things, but we can be happy, no, without those material goods. Okay, so that is what we call voluntary simplicity. So this is very good attitude actually, or perspective, if everybody have this kind of thinking, no, or perspective. But then take note, no, there is no excuse to everyone. Yan, everybody or every one of us actually have this kind of thinking, no, that sometimes we have a very good plans, we have a very good vision, we have a very good objectives, a goal in our life, but sometimes but at some point, no, we are also contradicting because of our actions. Bear in mind, no, that we need to be more responsible, or more sensitive enough on what we are thinking, at the same time the things that we are doing. One of the sad reality also that is happening when you talk about this consumption, no, or even the sustainable development and sustainable consumption, this is what is happening now in our world. And this was recorded last year and even for the previous years. So deforestation, 85% is being destroyed in the agriculture and even because of ranching, and 10% is from logging and due to for the creating or the production of paper, no? So the use of pulp and then paper, because pulp is being extracted, no, from the wood or from the tree. So 10% around the globe is being logged and just to produce pulp and then come up with paper. Okay? And what else? Water is 2 times as much as all other uses combined. So because of the total world's population, we have this kind of consuming, no, our water. That is why no wonder our water is being short already, no, because of this problem. What else? Largest source of pollution is actually because of human activities, and that is the sad reality. Now we are also the ones who are destroying our own environment or our own home. Okay, what else? Largest user of chemicals is actually or definitely humans. Yan. So like for example, ito nga yung cloud seeding, that is actually the use of chemicals and other kinds of chemicals that is being used even in our home. No, we actually use a lot of chemicals. Yan. So bear in mind that one, my dear classmate. In farming, agricultural processes, in industries, factories, in our home. A lot of chemicals is being used. Definitely, the largest user of chemicals are humans itself. And 20 to 30% of greenhouse gases emissions are coming from the human activities and even the different industries that is being created by humans. So it means that we are primarily responsible to what is happening within our environment or within our world. And we have also this problem, no? 87% of fisheries fully exploited or overfished around the globe. Okay, so due to the high population, again, the higher the population or the larger the population, the higher the demand, no, of different resources. And one resource is definitely the food. And one kind of food is the fish. That is why we have a problem of fishing. So, overfish already. Yan. And those things will be discussed also to you more about overfishing on the next chapters. I think that is around chapter 12 or chapter one of the chapters of our subject. No? So that's the sad reality. Okay, so sustainable consumption, key points that you need to take note. One, there is no magic cure for the impacts of consumption. So it's not a magic that one snap, once we know the idea of sustainable consumption, we can already solve, no, the problem. However, it will take time, it will take steps, no, or process to achieve the sustainable consumption. What else? We need sustainable strategies which work for most of people, not only for the benefit of the few. Okay, so that is the challenge for our government, the challenge for everybody, and to those organizations or institutions that is responsible for or in line to sustainable consumption. What else? Money is at the heart of consumption. So, sabi nga nila, it is really true that when you talk about it's also similar when you talk about money is the root of all evil. No? Same as true with consumption. Because if we do have money, we can buy something. And if we buy something else, let's say you are greedy, you're going to buy a lot of things or a lot of goods, no? Then you will have also a problem with the consumption. Okay, so yung term na greediness, no, that is also in line to consumption. Okay, what else? Maintaining high standards of living while using fewer resources. So we are developing, we are maintaining the high standard of living, we are improving the quality of life, but at the same time, we are using, no, a fewer resources. And hoping that will happen, no, in the coming years or in the future. So those are the key points when you talk about sustainable consumption. Alright, so another example when you talk about sustainable consumption, so look at or observe, no, the photo in our PowerPoint presentation. You have there three different kinds of bulbs. So you have there incandescent, you have there fluorescent, and we have there the LED bulb. So among when you try to look at those three different types of bulbs, when you talk about wise, no, or let's say a sustainable consumption, if I'm going to ask you, my dear classmate, which one you're going to choose or which one you're going to buy? Is it the incandescent bulb, the fluorescent bulb, or the LED bulb? Okay, so let me see your insight or thought about that different types of bulbs. So most of you, I think all of you answered LED bulb, no? So yes, basically during this time we have already a cheap type of LED bulb, no, and this is one of the efficient or consuming a lesser energy compared to the other two types of bulb. So that is also one example of sustainable consumption. So if we choose to use the LED bulb, that is actually a wiser way or a better way to consume the energy. We can save energy. Okay? Compared now to incandescent. As we all know, yes, incandescent is also cheap, but it also consumes a larger amount of energy. Same as true with fluorescent. No? It is consuming also a larger amount of energy compared to the LED bulb. Okay, so you see, no, we need to be more. We need to be more wise or sensitive or be more observant on what are the products that is being presented to us. Okay, so it doesn't mean that that type of product is cheap. It is already good, because we know before we have actually a very cheap incandescent bulb, and fluorescent is way expensive compared to incandescent. And during the time that LED is introduced, LED is far way expensive during the early time that was being created, no? But during this time, it's good that we have already a very cheap type of LED bulbs, and that is the good thing. So if we have to choose the bulb, the 3 different types of bulbs, we're going to choose LED bulb. Okay, so that is all about sustainable consumption and sustainable development. Okay, so for now, we're going to discuss about ethics. No, in line to ethics, we have what we call environmental ethics. So environmental ethics is defined as the way we treat the environment in an ethical way. In reality, no, are we really treating the environment in an ethical way, or in an ethical way? So we can say that no, we can say also yes. So when we talk about environmental ethics, this is the moral basis of environmental responsibility. What else? Ethical relationship between humans and the environment. So we have actually a relationship between with the environment. At the same time, it affects our ability to understand and solve environmental problems. So if we have environmental ethics, no, we can understand what is happening in the environment. At the same time, we'll have the ability, or we will come up with the plans to solve these environmental problems. Okay? That most of it is that caused also by human activities. Okay? So that is the ironic part, no, of when you talk about this environmental ethics, or when you talk about environment and humans. All right. And now, question is what role we should play, or how we might develop environmental ethics. So what we're going to do so that we can achieve what is environmental ethics. That is why there are what we call environmental worldviews, or ethical principles. So there are 2 different types of views, on how we treat the environment, or how we view, or how we understand the role of the environment. And so we have what we call the Western worldview. And when we talk about Western worldview, this is more on the concept of anthropocentrism. When we talk about anthropocentrism, humans possess complete authority in the environment. Okay, so it means that environment is open to human manipulation. Kasi nga tinatawag na anthro, from the word anthro, that is human. So anthropocentrism. So it's centered to it benefited to humans. Environment is made because that is for human. That is the idea of anthropocentrism. Because we have the authority, and that is open to human manipulation, and it is said that environment is made for human. Okay? That is the main idea, no? Environment is made, or environment existing for humans. Okay? That is anthropocentrism. At the same time, we have an attitude that is in line to anthropocentrism. We have what we call the frontier attitude. When I talk about frontier attitude, this is to exploit and conquer the nature as much as possible, or as fast as possible. Okay, that is actually the idea again, or in the concept of anthropocentrism. And that is the sad thing when we talk about this anthropocentrism. Okay, we are benefiting in the environment. At the same time, we have what we call the frontier attitude, which to exploit and conquer the nature. Okay, so you see, that is what we call the Western worldview towards the environment. And take note, when you talk about Western worldview, this type of view is actually from, or the origin is from the Western countries. But take note, not all Western countries are using this kind of, or applying this kind of environmental worldview. So just in general, that is most likely the view towards environment. So no wonder why they are using too much of resources that just presented to you also last chapter, and in the highly developed countries. And kasi nga yung mostly na highly developed countries are also the Western countries. So that is why the real thing that is being observed during this time, even before, kaya nga highly developed countries sila kasi they are using more of the resources. Okay, and one of their concept is we have what we call the anthropocentrism. And so aside from anthropocentrism, we have also what we call the deep ecological view, and it means that it is more on harmony in nature and spiritual respect for life, or there is an equal worth between humans and then the environment. Okay, so that is what we call the deep ecological view. So meaning this will be an opposite or exact opposite of anthropocentrism or the Western worldview. So there are two different concepts, no, or approach. We have there the biocentrism, and we have also what we call the ecocentrism. So let's start with biocentrism. Biocentrism is said to be that all forms of life have inherent right to exist. So since the environment is existing, animals that is within that environment, or let's say in the particular ecosystem, have the right to exist. Okay, that is biocentrism. We talk about the life, no? So bio means life. So all forms of life, and all forms of life have inherent right to exist. Okay, what else? Ecocentrism. Another approach is ecocentrism, or another concept is ecocentrism. So Earth itself has moral value and is to be treated with respect. Now, take note on the underlined words. No, treated with respect. So since environment is there, yan, so environment or Earth itself have its moral value, then it should be treated with respect. So we need to respect the environment, we need to respect the animals, we need to respect the plants, we need to respect the insect, we need to respect all the kinds of living things. And definitely, in general, or as a whole, we need to respect our home, the planet Earth. Okay, so that is what we call ecocentrism. Okay, so that is basically the exact opposite of the anthropocentrism. Okay, so that is what we call, or under what we call the deep ecological view. And we are looking at our world as a community rather than a commodity. Okay, because when we talk about commodity, we are just using these things because it is actually meant for everybody or meant for humans. Like for example, environment. Environment is meant for humans because humans are benefiting in the environment. Okay, so we need to use up what is the things that is in that particular environment or in the environment, okay, or what is in this planet Earth. Okay, but then take note when we talk about deep ecological view, we are looking at our planet Earth as a community rather than a commodity. Why? Because when we look at it as a community, we are respecting. No? So isn't it that in a community, no, there are people, there are respect, there are values, there are policies. Same as true, no? By looking at our world as a community. Now, so we are respecting whatever is existing within that particular community. Okay, so we are looking our Earth, our environment as community rather than a commodity. Okay, so that is the main point of deep ecological view. So either biocentrism or ecocentrism. There are three environmental attitudes, no, in line to the three different approaches. So you have their development. When you talk about development, it's actually more to anthropocentric approach. Kasi nga, we are developing something, we are improving something, but at the same time, we have to apply the approach of the anthropocentric approach. That is actually the reality. On the other hand, we have also what we call the preservation, or the term preservation. So preservation is in line to ecocentrism. So we are preserving this particular land, we are preserving this particular area, and that is we're going to apply the approach or the attitude the approach which is ecocentrism. And conservation is definitely the bridge or balance between the two. So preserving is, when you talk about preservation, no, we are not using the resources in that particular land. That is preservation. We are going to preserve. But conservation, we are using the natural resources or the resources in that particular land, but in a responsible way or in a sustainable way. That is conservation. Now, that is why it is the balance between development and preservation, because anthropocentric approach in development is way more on consuming. Aside from environmental ethics, we have also what we call the environmental justice. So we have defined what is justice a while back, that is being just and then fair. Now, when you talk about environmental justice, it is the right of every citizen to adequate protection from environmental hazards. So we are not only talking about the environmental problem, but when you talk about, or when we deal about environmental justice, we are already talking about our right, you know, to be protected in this particular environmental hazards. So we know that the environment is also resulting, or in some different natural events, no, we have what we call the environmental hazards. So sometimes, like for example, the volcanic eruptions, landslides. So we have also the rights, no, as people or as living organisms that is staying in this particular home or in this planet Earth. We need to have an environmental justice. So not only saving the environment, that at the same time saving also whatever or whoever is living in this particular land. So we need to look at also not the right only of environment, but also the right of the people, or let's say the right of every citizen to be protected in this particular environmental hazards. Okay? That is why we have the term eco-justice. No? When we talk about eco-justice, it encompasses the environmental inequalities faced by low-income minority communities. Look at what is happening, no? In reality. Take note that we have different types also of communities. No, we have a high income communities. At the same time, we have also a low income minority communities, especially here in our country. So why is it that we have what we call environmental inequalities? Because sometimes the services or the health services or the services that is being provided in a particular community is there is a inequality. No? So like for example, may not be treated adequately or may not be treated equally. No, so not the same treatment, not the same way of serving the people in this particular community. That is actually happening. No, not only here in our country, and even other countries. No, but look at the Philippines. No, we have, let's say for example, if you're going to compare squatter areas and then you're going to compare in subdivision areas, definitely there is different services that is being or treatment. No, let's say for example from the government, let's say health services. No? Sometimes we have a unequal services that is being provided by the government through this low income minority community compared now to the subdivision or in a high income community. And that is the sad reality. That is actually true. Yan. Why? Because one of the reasons, the structure in a low income minority communities, the number of population. What else? The structure, the house, the houses, the ways of living. There is too much difference, between these low income minority communities compared now to the high standard or high income communities, because they have the money, they have the capability to have this kind of services. But the low income minorities, they have they are incapable, to have this kind of services. However, when you talk about environmental justice, it should have a balance or equal services that will be provided in that particular community, either high income or a low income. Okay? So it doesn't matter. Okay? What else? May not receive equal benefits. This is actually true. No? Look at what is happening. Or let me just give an example in this in our country again. So take note, let's say for example the distribution of what we call the financial assistance to Filipino families during the first wave of the pandemic, or let's say the COVID-19 virus. Isn't it that there are also families that is not assessed, and they just receive the financial assistance? And that is one good example when you talk about this may not receive equal benefits. Same as true with environmental justice. Where is the equality? If we have this kind of things, isn't it that during calamities, sometimes there are also unequal benefits, or let's say in health problems, and again, sometimes we have also unequal benefits. So that is the sad reality here in our country and even other countries. But I am really highlighting what is happening here in our country. Okay? I'm not saying that all the time, but most of the time, there is actually we are not receiving equal benefits, either the protection in the environmental hazard or maybe on the other concepts. Okay, what else? When we talk about this environmental justice, we need to look at the fair treatment and meaningful involvement, for everybody, whether you are old, you're young, etc., whatever your religion, etc. If you look at the low minority income communities, like for example this picture, we can still observe this one, maybe on some places, but I think when you talk about this thing, it improves already. But before, we are observing this kind of thing that is happening in our country. Yan. So because of the low income minority communities, and they are most of the time they are receiving in equal health benefits or maybe in equal self-protection of the environmental hazards during landslide, during calamities. But then take note here in our country also, we are practicing what we call the term bayanihan. So we are helping one another. That's the good thing. We are donating during calamities to those families who are affected with this particular calamity. And there's a lot also of protocols or policies that is protecting this type of problems that we are facing here in our country. Okay, so hoping that we're going to achieve the environmental justice, and that should be so we are not only talking about the environment itself, but the treatment also, or the effect of the environment to us, particularly for us humans. So we have the right to be protected in the environmental hazards. If you try to look at this distribution of the population around the globe, it also reflects how affecting now our environment. And so take note. So imagine the 800 million work industrial jobs. It means that we have a lot of industries, we have a lot of factories. 577 million are older than 64. No wonder why this COVID-19, there's a lot of senior that this age is being affected or died because of this virus. So you see, there is also an impact of the different types of people, or the distribution of people. And the question is, what those 7 billion people will going to do to achieve what we call sustainable development, and yun nga, yung sustainable consumption, and even to have an environmental justice and environmental ethics. Okay, so that is a challenge to everybody. Even though we have this kind of categories or this distribution, we have also our own role to be responsible on what are we going to do, or how we're going to treat our environment. At the same time, we need to be aware also on our rights towards environment. Okay? And that's it, my dear classmate. These are the overall plan for sustainability. So either sustainable development, sustainable consumption, etc. So first, eliminate poverty and stabilize the human population. What else? Protect and restore Earth's resources, and provide adequate food for all people. This will be a tough or a very big challenge to everybody for our world. Provide adequate or enough food for all people. Another one, mitigate climate change. Yan. So since climate change is already happening, we need to mitigate or maybe adapt. So come up with plans how to, and mitigation, and reduce the greenhouse gases. What else? And other things. This will be discussed also for the coming chapter. I think this will be discussed on chapter number 10, yung mitigation through, or mitigate and climate change. Aside from that one, design sustainable cities. That will be also a challenge to every countries. So, and that's it, my dear classmate. Our world is to care for. So we need to take care of our world. Since we are staying in this common world, this common earth, then we have also the responsibility to take care in our own home, or in our own world. And that's it, my dear classmate. Thank you so much for joining me this discussion in this chapter number 3. And if you do have questions or clarifications, you can post that one in our group chat, or maybe send message through Canvas. And thank you. I'll see you all on the next chapter. Take care always, and then God bless.